as a dwarf, my fears are different than most new fathers because my worst fear is that I fall into the crib and get stuck. And then it's just me and my daughter just in the crib, and I gotta look at a 2-year-old and be like, if we don't work together, we're not gonna make it out of here alive.
Brad Blanks, and I'm here with one of the hottest comedians in America, Brad Williams. How are you, mate?
Doing great. Thank you so much for having me. And I've been described a lot of ways. Hot, very rarely. Maybe sometimes my wife, if she's had a couple of whiskeys.
Yeah, well, I'm trying to get better at my intros, and I think I'm just nervously screwing it up. I'd probably pick the wrong word.
No. I prefer that way better than how most morning shows bring me on, which is, first of all, they take out a cowbell. I don't think you're allowed to have a morning show without a cowbell. And they just start ringing it and go like, "Hi, everybody, the next guest. We've got a midget coming into our studio. Ring, 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 ring." And then there's a giant horn button that goes point, point, and everyone goes nuts.
Take me back to last week. You're minding your own business in the world, and all of a sudden you're made a political leader of society representing your community.
Yeah, I'm just trying to sit here, be a good dad, get ready for my shows and all that, and then all of a sudden the Peter Dinklage news breaks where he was on the Mark Maron podcast and he expressed some displeasure with the remake of the Disney Snow White and how they're going to do a live action, saying that yes, they have a Latina Snow White, which is great, but now they're not going full progressive because we're still doing the Seven Dwarf thing. And because there's only like 3 famous dwarves in the world, all the news outlets came to me, and basically my view on the whole thing is Dinklage is not entirely wrong in that the old movie and that story not the best for little people. I think when it came out, people didn't really have a lot of knowledge of what or who dwarves are. So that was their base. That was what a lot of people based all their knowledge on. So like when I would tell people, oh, I'm a dwarf because I have a chondroplastic dwarfism, they'd be like, oh yeah, like a fairy tale. Or they'd be like, oh, no, you're not really a dwarf. That's an offensive term. And it's like, I just said it. No. But I get it. Like a lot of people, because of that movie, think that dwarves all live in villages and we all live together. We're only old white men. We have names that are based on human emotions or adjectives. So that's what a lot of that base knowledge comes from, which of course is not true. We don't all live together. You don't drive down your street and go, which house do the dwarves live in? Well, it's clearly the mushroom with the door in it. Like it's not anything like that. So, but I do understand that I don't want the dwarves to go away from the story because that's acting work and we don't have a lot of acting jobs in Hollywood. So I wanted the dwarves to stay. Maybe we make them better. My solution is that we change the ending of Snow White and we have Snow White end up with one of the dwarves. That's how we make it better. Maybe Dopey. He's about her age range, doesn't talk, real easy to get along with, really pleasant fellow.
But they're all, you've mentioned it, they are entrepreneurs, the dwarfs, right?
Yeah, they're self-made. They got their own business. And if you're like, but Snow White's a princess, how are they going to provide for her? Their business is diamond mining. I think they're going to be okay. And I think that's a lot better if she ends up with one of the dwarves rather than ending up with the prince, who's essentially a necrophiliac, who just comes by while Snow White's passed out, hasn't done any of the work to save her, and goes, oh, hey, here's a legally dead woman. Let me make out with her. See what happens there. And he does, and then he gets to ride off into the sunset. BS. No, he's just a rich boy with daddy's money, never had to work for himself. So I say Snow White should end up with one of the dwarves. That's my pitch.
Well, I hope that you get a role. You could get a role. You could get the Dopey role. You never know.
I would love that. And I would especially love the Dopey role. I wouldn't even have to talk the entire movie. I would just have to stand there and look silly, which I have 38 years experience doing.
And of course, we haven't seen you for 3 years, and it's good to see you again, Brad. In that time, you've had a child. Like you've procreated.
Yes. I didn't really have the kid. My wife did the vast majority of the work. She grew the baby herself. I just provided a little bit of water and seed. Maybe that's about it. But yeah. So I have a 2-year-old baby now. It's fantastic. I'm loving it. It's a lot of stress, as any parent will tell you. But I'll say that even though I'm scared, it's okay. It's okay to be scared as a new parent. I also know that as a dwarf, my fears are different than most new fathers, because my worst fear is that I fall into the crib and get stuck. And then it's just me and my daughter just in the crib. And I got to look at a 2-year-old and be like, if we don't work together, we're not going to make it out of here alive.
Just in final words, you do great tweets. You're great on Twitter.
Thanks.
When there's a big movement on Twitter and little people are out on news shows, a lot of your friends seem to text you or tweet you and think that you were on, like Tucker Carlson last night. Does that seem to happen?
The WWE wrestler Hornswoggle was on, former WWE wrestler Hornswoggle was on Tucker Carlson, and I got all these texts from friends like, "What are you doing going on Tucker Carlson?" And I was like, for a second, I thought I got way too drunk and just called my agent and was like, "I don't care, put me on Tucker, let's go." And then of course I also covered the major dwarf protest that happened. I don't know if you saw it, but out in Hollywood, there's a big protest about the movie and the dwarves being used and stuff. So a lot of dwarves were protesting. They wanted to make it dramatic. They walked out in the middle of Sunset Boulevard to stop traffic. And we lost a lot of good men that day. We lost a lot of good men.
Brad Williams, one of the hottest, funniest, and a legend already of the game. Thanks, mate. You're a champion.
Thanks, fellow Brad.